Hello. Hello and welcome to the Marketing Automation webinar. And just to
Oh,
make everything, sorry, just a moment. There's always a glitch. Okay, it seems that for Facebook, it's not going to work. We're having some trouble with the streaming. Otherwise, I think by on LinkedIn and YouTube, you are going to receive the streaming without any issues. So I'm here with my friend, Jorge Cunha. My name is Rui Nunes. I'm the founder of the Sendex Mail. Oh, it's the other one. I'm always missing this one behind me. So I'm the founder of Sendex Mail and a bunch of other brands and companies. But for this talk in particular, I'm going to address the Sendex Mail because it's the agency for email marketing and marketing automation that I run. And I'm here with George Cunha, which is above all a friend of mine for many years. And he's also analytics and data wizard. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. Go ahead, George.
Hi guys, thank you, Ray. I'm working on the web analytics space since 2012, and doing several projects. I have my own small consultancy company that I'm doing projects all over Portugal and abroad as well. And we are here today to tackle this marketing automation thing that is
Yeah,
so awesome if it's good and it's prepared for working
cool.
not so automated but automated with smart things.
Exactly. So, hello, good morning, Miguel. I already have some comments here. Hello, good morning. So, we are going to follow a bit of it's not exactly a script, but we are going to tackle some issues that I think it's going to be most interesting for everyone listening. So, for the first one, it's what's marketing automation, and this is usually. Let me just close here the sound. I have an echo here.
It
Uh,
happens. It happens.
it happens to, especially when I do everything the by myself, which is not ideal. So, okay, so handling the what's marketing automation. I think there's a huge misconception about what's marketing automation, what it's best for use, and so on. So, George, do you have any idea what's the biggest misconception about marketing automation? It's not exactly what it is, but it's what people think about marketing automation and what it is.
I think we have 2 points here. One is
Yeah.
marketing automation can do it all, and
Mhm.
that's the misconception because sometimes that's of the points. The other point is to do marketing automation because everybody does it, so it's my time to do it as well. I think you're going to say that, but I'm going to to update on that. That is marketing automation. It's to put on the strategy on the tactical that wants to bring your the right message at the right time. This is a paradigm that everybody says, but the misconception is that where when to apply and how to apply it. That comes the big idea, and for each goal that we're going to tackle here, you have a different meaning. For me, I think it's important to use marketing automation with data, with contextualized data, because I'm not going to punch with marketing automation things um, to increase to a lead or to propose a new offer with a hungry customer, right, that has a lot of complaints, because you're going to be more pissed than usual. It already is. So I have maybe to call him and to give, okay, I'm sorry, we missed that, but we are going to tackle that. That's it. That once, because everybody needs something. So it's important to not overload them with more things to offer and not to solve that case. That is one of the things. That other things, it's to marketing automation online. What I think one of the use case that everybody use it's for remarketing. I think it's remarketing. Everybody,
Yeah.
marketing automation, remarketing. Well, so you go to the e-commerce site, you go to the payment, or you do add to cart, and okay, let's bring it remarketing. An email, you receive an email, you can use your data as well and to spread on the Google stack if you are using G4. And okay, that's okay. But if you bring contextualized data to the table, you're going to be more efficient, and efficiency will get better results and better attrition that we have backwards. That is maximize everybody that goes to that card, because the possibilities of missing are huge, or the customer does not. It's a tactic, because many
Yeah.
people that I think are using remarketing with a discount. Oh, you miss your items here. There are several tactics, right? But the people that use the discount, it's misleading, because everybody, if the customer knows,
Yeah.
you'll always be doing that. So it's not
Yeah,
good for the
exactly.
brand, it's not good for the business, and
Yeah.
because they are used to get discounts when they go to the.
Yeah. Actually, there's a use case from a client of ours in the UK. What happened
Mhm.
is they are an e-commerce brand for contact lenses, and it's a huge market in the UK. I didn't know, but what happened was that oh, sorry, it was not about contact lenses, was on kids clothes. So what happened was
Mhm.
they had a huge list of people that were buying it was but what they found was most of the list was not that active. And when we made an audit to the list and tried to find out reasons and so on, what happened was, due to that kind of strategy or tactic, in this case, to send coupons and discounts after people are going to the subscribe for the first time and so on. So it was recurrent people, recurrent clients that were creating new logins just to get those discounts. And it was a huge problem for them, because they were obviously losing a lot of money in kind of discounts. But how we found out was using the actual addresses, the physical addresses for them. So it was always the same, obviously, but they were
Mhm.
using different logins and emails they created just for that. So obviously email marketing that we were sending was not reaching or not engaging because the
Mhm.
emails were only created for that. So this kind of data analysis and insights that we can extract from this kind of tactics, it's usually important for marketing automation. But getting to the point again, what marketing automation, I think one of the biggest misconception about marketing automation is that the companies or brands start to look like less as human and more like a bot or something that it's automatically generated. And that it becomes really natural for everyone that it's getting this uh, messaging or communication or whatever it's
Mhm.
going to receive, or something like that. But what I think it's the best application of marketing automation, it's basically to reproduce the things that usually we are already in some way automating. What I mean is copy pasting replies, or using templates for some kind of answer,
Mhm.
or on the customer service, for instance, they use copy and paste answers to everyone to do that. So this could be obviously done by, hello, Marta, good morning. And what marketing automation basically is, it's to replicate what we already do as marketers or in the communication with our audience, but in this case, using a more intelligent way. So we can scale our reach. We can still become even more human in a way, or in this case, to try to reproduce the human touch, but by using these kind of strategies and tools. But as you said, and well said in that aspect, it's really important to have contextual data. It's not going to be a good assumption from our automation tools, and for these tools to really understand how they are going to communicate, it's really important to have a notion from where this contact has reached, how they have reached, what's the tone of voice, how is the sentiment of that person, if they are in a bad mood or in a good mood. So this is all of themes that we can, or in this state, in this case, data that we can incorporate to our CRMs or DSPs or whatever, in terms of understanding what it's the right approach. So, and I think you already have mentioned this before with me, but on CRMs and especially on when we have a complete idea about the customer, sometimes, and if we use the application from Google, we can understand, for instance, when they are subscribing or engaging with our communication, including, for instance, the weather where they are. So if it's a moody day and something like that, we can incorporate that on our data, and in that case, we can have developed a different kind of message for that person in particular. Because it's we know that in moody days we are not that thriving, we are not that cheering. So sometimes we need to adapt the communication to that kind of approach. So this is one of the things that it's important to understand. So the definition about marketing automation, basically, on my understanding, or this is my definition that I usually works very well for my clients, it's marketing automation. It's about replicating what we already do as humans in terms of approach, communication, and so on. But in this case, to replicate our activities and tactics even when we are not there. So basically, we are scaling our approaches and also doing our boring work, like gathering all of the data to get reports.
But Rui,
on.
I think one point of view of using CRM data in the and digital points like web analytics, like G4. Sorry, but to bring here the G4, but I think it's most important.
Everyone hates it right now, but
if it's tied together, the digital footprint with the CRM footprint that is support people that are returning items, why I'm doing some campaigns for people that are returning constantly, the customer lifetime value is very low. So my cost for acquisition, maybe it's not good for that person for doing a campaign for them. And maybe I can use, maybe no, I can use for sure machine learning, because I have all this data and people that interact with the digital footprint and machine learning data that you have on the CRM to enrich the data and say, okay, this is a probability to purchase this kind of item because historically he has, like other customers have done it. So with machine learning, you can do this. So what I'm seeing here on the marketing automation with steroids, it's going to bring up and put more context. So the many data that you can have with purpose of knowing better your customer, the better you can do marketing automation, the better you can do campaigns, the better you can do messaging this customer and getting the value that is interesting for both parts. One it's for buying the product, and the other it's for the company to make profits. I think one of the things for me, and I think I'm advising for all customers, in this case for G4, to go to BigQuery, because BigQuery have this database that you can enrich G4 with this data and creates smart audience that you can use on Google Ads, the DV360, Search Ads 360, and all this is connected data are amazing to do proper campaigns and to do a smart campaign automation, because marketing automation basically works fluent with email, but if you can work with media on the same point, you have all the spectrum on this customer that involves. And if the information that is the cost, it's a good customer, a bad customer. It's interesting to invest on a bad customer, because you're not going to buy more, because losing all these products on the shopping carts, it's trivial for them. They are always asking for discounts. It's this that we want or not. But we are sure we can use machine learning for sentimental. Nowadays, with the generative AI that we are talking about, all people talking about, that kind of automation, that to see the sentiment, to analyze the sentiment, and to do these campaigns. It's very interesting to do the campaigns with the weather. Yeah, because if you have physical stores, maybe the bad weather, they don't go to the physical stores. Maybe I can do campaigns.
Before we pass to the next question, I want to highlight this comment from James, which we already have one, but not because of our content, but my mustache. And yes, I'm very proud of this mustache, James. It took me years to get to this point, so I'm going to show off now. Thanks, James. So the next step is about the best strategy for each goal. So the best strategy for each goal, it's one of those comments about every product or industry is going to be different. So it's going to be different because the strategy for each industry, each goal that we have, it's going to be different. So I think it's good for us to highlight some of them. Usually on LinkedIn and Instagram and so on, I showcase some carousels about ideas for different industries, but we are going to highlight just a few of them that I think it can be, in this case, the best use for several industries in one take. But one of the things that I think it's very important for any of these strategies to work, it's to collect the right data in order to do some of these tactics. For instance, when I speak about the tourism or the hotels industry, some of the data they have, like for instance, let's see, when was the last time you stayed in the hotel? One of the biggest mistakes that I see on using that data collection, it's sometimes the configuration of the data, it's different between the registry and the database. So if that's the case, the data it's going to be like, for instance, if it was like you were stay there on that hotel in the 2040 and not the today. So that's one of the things that usually break this kind of automations, which is, for instance, to send an email asking how was their stay and so on. The other thing is to have a direct correlation or some sort of input data of the how it's the name of those people that are attending us on the desk. So yeah,
front office. It's front office.
exactly, the front office, if they are going to place, for instance, if they already know that that client is not happy with something because they've complained or something like that, they can immediately input that information within the CRM and avoid, for instance, to send an email asking, oh, how was everything, and they already know that it was something they were disliking. So that's something that I think it's very important to have all of this data in order before you even think to have all of these tactics in place. So best strategy for each goal. I'm going to do some examples, and then you take it from there, George, and think about that. So I'm going to use some cases. So in this case, the tourism industry, it's one of them. You can use, for instance, to ask some reviews, to ask for when they are leaving the premise. You give some time in order for them to arrive to their home, wait, for instance, for them to relax and not be busy still with the unpacking of everything. So this is a lot of things that you need to take account in order to prepare all of the automation. Another thing is, for instance, to ask for or give ideas for other locations where you already have also other hotels and so on. Give them a VR, the perspective where they can actually, or in this case, virtually visit that hotel and so on. So there's a lot of things that you can do.
I have a good one. I have a good one for the
ahead.
hotel business. That's the only business that the customer sleeps all nights in the business. So it's for me it's a good joke because it's all the touch points are there. The customer sleeps on the business. So I worked like a few years ago, lots of him in the hospitality business. And what I can tell you, it's collection of data. It's important, but it's important not to be so very like stalking the people, because it get you the worst thing of the hospitality business that people are there to enjoy. But we are sure the more data with all the path that the tourist the guest makes on the hotel, what it uses, it's a good point to see behaviors that you can see. Okay, these people likes to go to the sauna, likes to go to the pool, likes to go to the bar, goes at night. These are points, very interesting points, because hospitality business has a big issue with the leads, because or it's booking, it's Airbnb are very big platforms that are getting the leads and are winning the business. So it's very difficult if they don't have a fidelity system. It's the problem to you cannot do automation. You cannot connect with the customer directly, because it comes from a platform. So it's a point that is not easy. It's not easy to tackle that, because there's a lot of commission that are paying. If you don't get organically to have hospitality and the fidelity system, tackling all that points and do automation on that. Like, okay, if you know that kind of behavior, that they go to the pool, they like to go to the bar. Maybe these kind of people like to go to live shows. You can see on the area live shows that you can provide to these customers, these guests, if they are a VIP guest. So why
VIP,
not
yeah.
to make this kind of offer to
Great
get there?
examples, George.
And there's another example. I worked. I did a service for tourism of Portugal. I know that the northern of Europeans start booking holidays on January, and then if you go to the south of our continent, people are like February, March, and so on. So each market has its own things to. So we have to do marketing automation with this kind of culture. So the Nordics, they book very early in their vacations. People in the south, it's very late.
Yeah.
Because we are
Always.
relaxed and say, okay, we get the time, take it easy. We are going to holidays, not going on stress.
It's for tomorrow. So, it's for tomorrow.
It's for tomorrow. So, but there are good examples. That's the only business that the customer, the guest, sleeps on the business. So we have all these touch points that people are missing because I think it's there's a missing data information that you can get, of course, consented and so on to bring a better offer for them.
Okay, we have a question by Miguel, more specifically about the real estate. So in this case, I can give you the pointers. For instance, on real estate, and I'm trying to do something. I think I already have done some ideas for this, but I'm going to provide some insights from a training that I've done to a big real estate agency here in Portugal. And what we have discussed, some ideas to implement all of this is, for instance, for real estate agents, which they need, they have a small time. What I mean is that they don't have a lot of time to implement all of this. They need to showcase new houses, but they also need to nurture their list and so on. So these are some of the tips that we can do with marketing automation. One, it's for instance to have like almost like a reminder or to stay on top of mind for each period, and it's going to depend on the view that each real estate agent has about their own list. It's, for instance, how much time I should give in order to send them something relevant. And by relevant, I mean something that user are going to value. It's not only to send, for instance, a new home that you have available or something like that. It could be, for instance, information about the real estate area, like for instance, or the market itself. So the houses are getting higher prices or something like that, or some information from the government that it's going to impact the real estate industry. So this could be interesting to send to people that already have bought houses. So it's not that likely, I think, for someone that already have bought a house this year that it's going to buy a new house tomorrow. So it's going to having this understanding and having a segmentation or clustering of your list depending on if they have bought a new home or if they are looking for a new home within this the timestamp. It's very important to have this idea of how the communication or the email that you are going to send, it's going to be relevant for them. So in this case, one of the things it's, for instance, to have like a top of mind emails that you are going to prepare and you are going to leave it there and just update some information from now and then with information which is actual or in this case, updated. So that's one of the things. The other thing is to have like a monthly newsletter or something like that. And I say monthly because of the technical side of email marketing. So in this case, if you take too much time between emails that you are going to send, eventually you are going to be found by ESPs, the email service providers like Gmail, Outlook, etc., that you are not basically you are being under the suspicion that you are a spammer. So if you are regular, it's one thing. If you take a lot of time between emails, it's going to alert some triggers on the SP. So the deliverability can be hurt by that situation. So the best thing is minimum to send one newsletter per month. The best it's each the 15 days or something like that for the real estate. But the idea is to send something that it's not only for pitching new houses, but basically cater for their tastes. Like, for instance, if someone has clicked in some emails where you have a villa, it's going to be different from a villa or for someone that is clicking on apartments. So having that notion and segmenting that information within your list, you can cater to their tastes. So in this case, it means that this person is looking for apartments, this one is looking for villas. So this kind of information that you are segmenting on your list, you are going to then provide information, different information for each one of these people. Then maybe some curiosities about the market. For instance, did you know that on this region, for instance, for a vacation home in Algarve or something like that, did you know that in this region people are getting more interest for this area because of the prices, because of this? And so you create that curiosity on people. They are going to see more about that, and eventually you are triggering their some interest in the area that they never thought that location would be the best for them. So it could be like a trigger for them to approach. So that's one of the things. The other thing on the real estate, it's also to have like a reminder. For instance, in some cases for real estate, you can, depending on the date they have signed the new home, or they have a question, you can trigger some messages for them to alert about the taxes, the something like that, which is always welcome, because we need to get alerts for that, and to keep the top of mind on that. And when you have a very good deal, or you want to promote some houses or something like that in a specific area, it's best for you to send, for instance, for people that have already demonstrated that the area is good for them. So, for instance, for people in Lisbon, very hardly are going to be interested in houses in Oporto. Sometimes it can happen because you want to move or something like that, but it's going to be different for those kind of situations. So the idea is to keep a monthly approach with them, to stay on top of mind. And one of the biggest things that you can do on real estate and using email, it's to be very quick to reply. What I mean by that, it's sometimes when you get a new lead from the main brand, like for instance, one of the main real estate brands, that afterwards they are going to share with the franchisees. So when they are going to share, sometimes it's already lacking a few days or hours or something like that. If you delay a bit more that contact, eventually they are going to reach out to um, other person that already have contacted them. So this is a race to be the fastest in replying. You can use marketing automation to do that. So what I mean is, for instance, instead of you every day to be looking at your email and trying to reply immediately, one of the things that you can do is to prepare already a series of email replies, and then you are going to activate them based on some triggers. For instance, I'm looking for a house in Lisbon. So you are already preparing an email that it's for Lisbon, and answering very quickly, saying, okay, thank you so much for your email. I'm going to find the best houses for Lisbon for your in my portfolio, or around the market for you, or something like that. So having those answers immediately, even if it's not you, it's an automation that it's sending, at least they have a reply from you, and it gives you some time for in the next day, or you have an assistant or something like that to answer more manually in a few days. But it gives you some lineage in terms of answering. George, do you have any any inputs from
Really,
that?
you have done all the strategy for the guys. You have to. No, only one thing that I want to say, if it's
Yeah,
on the even on the real estate, you can have tied together the digital footprint, because you can, if you
exactly.
can searching for the houses that you have together to sell it. You only sell the houses that you are on your portfolio. So
Yeah,
um,
the only
and the
thing that
analytics can give you that kind of information, that people are specific looking for the typology
yeah,
and the location. That is
yeah,
the
but
main thing
that
that you can
works.
get.
But
Yeah,
George, that works very well when you have, for instance, your agency. It's something that you control. What I mean is, you have a website that you control, you
yeah.
have the analytics on your control. What happens with most of the real estate market, it's run by
It's
one
a
brand.
brand. Yeah, master
Yeah,
brand.
and then they share, for instance, the leads for each
Hmm.
franchisee or something like that. So, but it's not collected about what they have done on the website. Usually, it's not. They
Yeah.
don't have the footprint and say, "Oh, this guy was searching for houses in this and this and this location." So it's something
This
that I
is depending
think it
for the
should
master
be.
franchise. Yeah, that is
Exactly, exactly.
together
So
on the
yeah,
media, because you can create an audience based on what they
exactly.
search on the website. Then when you have stock to sell on that location, because you gather the houses for them, or you get another offer that are highly available for this kind of people that are asking for this typology and location. You can use it. It's the only thing that it's priceless, because you get a lot of information, and sometimes you don't get the email for the people, so you can get the other kind of
I
information.
d- totally agree. The totally agree,
Mhm.
and I'm a very big advocate that even for franchises or something like that, they should have a local, or in this case, a web presence, a local web presence for them, and not only relying on the big brand. And
Yeah,
that's because you can have people searching for a house in a specific location. You can control how and how can I say, the house itself, or the villa or the
yeah.
apartment, or whatever it's
Mhm.
going to be presented. So it's not only how every other location is going to be presented. You can cater on how you are going to show that information, the pictures, the video, and so on. So it's going to be a delight on your website, and it's going to
Mhm.
be the same for everyone on the franchise brand. So and also gives you a lot of information that a franchise brand usually don't give you, like the
Yeah.
footprint, what they have already searched for.
What
So
people are
there's a
searching
lot of
more. Yeah. on the area.
Exactly. So that's something that it's very good for the real estate market. I
Mhm.
hope the Miguel is satisfied with
Miguel
some
is
of these ideas.
it's very satisfied. It's saying, thank you so much, you are
Okay,
super. And
okay, thanks. Okay, cool.
okay, we have
So,
and Isabel Moura has a question for you.
yeah.
What is the most challenging thing when creating automation in email, for example? So this is
Okay, the most challenging thing, it's basically what we have already shared sometimes here, which is when we don't have enough data. For instance, we are preparing a marketing automation email or something that it's being sent by email, but we don't have the full picture about what it's going to happen. So, for instance, for some of the things that we have mentioned here, for Miguel to implement on the real estate, he needs some information, like for instance, dates of when they've bought a new house or when they have searched for a new location, and then you are going to prepare a look something on by email to that information. So
Mhm.
one of our clients here in Portugal, one of the few, because most of our clients it's outside of Portugal. That's why we are having this conversation in English. But one of the few clients that I have in Portugal, it's about an experience tourism company. And what they do, it's basically they have the three websites, different websites for each kind of vertical of their products. So, and one of the things they do, it's collect a lot of information, like Georgia has mentioned, which is, for instance, to collect where they have asked, which is the form, which is the page they have shown interest. For instance, if it's an experience from the north of Portugal to the south, if it's from Costa Vicentina, if it's Algarve. So that gives already some highlights about what you are going to implement. So the information needs to cater to that. And what we've done is to create it's a huge email. If you are going to see it like a dynamic content email, it's huge. It never ends. It's like one email, but with a lot of content that it's going to be shown differently for each one of the person that it's going to
So
ask for
in
more
resume,
information.
the main thing is to get contextualized data and not
Exactly.
just email.
Exactly.
I think
So
is that
we are doing by the source and the location they
yeah.
have shown interest. We are going to cater the reply email that it's going to be assigned to a salesman. It's not
Yeah.
just an email from the brand saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is the information that you've requested." No, it's immediately assigned to a guide. It's a real guide. It's a real person that it's going to send automatically that information with it's almost like if he receives that notification and he wrote it an email completely to personalize for that person, like
Mhm.
ideas for the route they are going to take, what they can do, where they can stay, some ideas already catered just for that location and that perspective. So when
Mhm.
people are going to receive that, it's almost like, oh my God, they are quick and they are highly personalized. So this is one of the most challenging is when we don't have that data. So
Yeah.
in one of the websites they didn't have this implemented. So we didn't know which was the the form or something like that. And when that happens, we can't do some of the personalizations that we need to do in order to have more effect or more impact. So these kind of things is something that we need to cater. So the most
Mhm.
challenging thing when we are creating email automation, it's basically that it's to have enough data in order to create the automations that we intend for. So
Yeah.
that's it.
So in resume, Isabel Nora, I hope you like it. It's a complete answer from Rui
I hope so.
and myself, but I think it's this applies to everything. It's if you don't have
Thank
contextualized
you,
data,
Pedro.
it's very difficult to do something. Okay.
Cool. So we have other issue. Otherwise, this is going to take more than 1 hour, and we want we don't want to waste your time. So the next question is what to look for and marketing automation tool. And I'm going to start, but then George is going to give his input because it's more valuable than mine in this question. Which is what we need to look for on a marketing automation tool depends a lot on your business, your market, and what is your budget. What I mean by that is we are very agnostic in terms of the marketing automation tool that we use for each client. So we have clients with very basic marketing automation tools, and we have clients with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Adobe Marketing Cloud, Oracle, and so on, in order to implement everything and to have a coherent vision about everything about their lists and databases and so on. So what I mean by that, it's depending on your medium and a bit of it's the short, medium, and long-term goals. There are tools for everyone. The best ones for the small the small and medium companies usually starts with active campaign, for instance. It's the most basic one, but it's already in some terms advanced because we can do most of the things that we talk about marketing automation. When we need to go a bit further, then we are already entering the SaaS, or in this case, Active Campaign. It's already a SaaS, but in this case, we are thinking about budgets that for the majority of the of the companies it's almost it's still a dream in some circumstances. And it's not only because of the price of the monthly fee, but also you need help. And in this case, you need consultants to apply everything, like George, for instance, to apply everything in order to have the best implementation of everything. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see major companies do, it's they buy a Ferrari, okay, like a Salesforce Marketing Cloud and so on, but then they don't implement it correctly. And for instance, the Pedro Freire, which is was recently here talking about and thinking about the insights. He works for I know that he works for a company that is providing this kind of support. Jacala Iberia, it's a company that is supporting this kind of big brands that needs help in terms of implementing all of these in a way that it's going to give a full perspective about the client and how they are approaching their audience in a meaningful way. And for that, you need data. You need to understand how this is going to be implemented. You need to collect all of this information in a way that it's going to provide insight, and then you are going to really communicate with this audience in a personalized way. And that only happens usually with the big ones when you have a consulting firm attached to you, and it's going to help you implement all of this. Because when they give you the solution, usually, okay, this is here, the keys for the Ferrari, but we are not going to tell you how to drive it. So you need some assistance on how to implement all of that machine. So talking about the marketing automation tool, it's going to depend on a series of things, which is your market. There are marketing automation tools specific for each market. For instance, for e-commerce, there are one that I recall, which is Drip. I think so. There's another for usually very considered for e-commerce, which is Klaviyo. But Klaviyo, for those who don't know, they use another ESPs. So the servers that are sending emails, it's not exactly Klaviyo. It's another ESP, which have other implications, but that's a matter for another time. But George, what are the other things that you can remember about data and how they need to collect or make a sense of
So
everything?
the main thing is to have a discovery phase on the customers to see what they need, what they want to go, and another thing is integration. Integration it's a fundamental step, a basic but a fundamental step. Because if you don't have things that are integrated, you cannot do anything. You can do a custom integration, okay, but we have to see if all the tech stack are good to do that. What are the challenges that we are to apply and what you gain for that. Sometimes you are creating the wheel again, so never mind that. It's not a very good investment. We are creating the wheel, but if you do something that is okay, we are creating some sort of thing for our market, specific market, and we want not to go to all the stack together because it's a huge investment. You want to do step by step. Yeah, you can do like for instance J4, and then it will be query. So collect the data correctly, measure, and then okay, treat that data and tie together with the CRM system to get the possibility to do machine learning, because that's the huge step that you gain. It's to get information for your own audience that is first party, that are consented. So you are consenting this data, and you are not buying data, because the mention on the yesterday things, I think we are going to talk about laws and regulation and regulations. I get some offers to buy cookies in the past. I want to buy cookies, third-party cookies. Okay, I can give 1 million from these people, and it's not good. I think the good thing is to treat your own data, have context data, and then all the measurements that if you have 2 or 3 or websites and app, you can tie together all this data and have a measurement that can. It's called the measurement plan that you can use, and some techie, some data layer that you put on the website and the events that are common ground, that you can join this data together and see all the customer journey on your properties. And then with that, you can do a lot of things on machine learning, because you have data, and the data it's at the same structure. You have to do some cleaning always, but you have all the structure that you need. So for small, more medium companies, they can do, even the small can do measurements. Measurements, it's good to do measurement. All the basic it's measurement. If they don't do a good measurement, it's not a good idea to do machine learning on side of bad data. If you have bad data and skip all these steps, the possibility to get bad results, it's huge, and your decisions are going to mismatch, and all the money in the table will be lost because you are working with bad data. So one thing to have and to do constantly, this is one of the challenges of my area, it's to constantly have good data, because there are several updates, browser updates, website updates, and sometimes there are breaks on the digital side, and all these collected data are missed. So this is a huge for all the markets, small, medium, and large. Even the large companies don't often do audits, external and internal audits for their own data to see if all things are tied together. I think it's the major things, Rui.
Yeah, and I think you already have answered also one of the other questions that we had, like the best practices to collect, apply it, and measure data. And you already have answered that in a way. But one of
Yeah.
the last things about the marketing automation tool and what you are looking for, there are a lot of offers in that area. What I think you should consider it's what you are trading for. What I mean is, for instance, you have open source tools like Mautic, for instance. It's an open source tool that allows you to do a pretty advanced kind of automation, which is already reading what people are doing on your website, and depending on that they can trigger some messages and so on. The tricky thing about using this kind of open source platforms, which is cool, but the thing is usually there's a learning curve, not only to understand how you are going to implement all of that, but also the time spending that your team is going to do in order to make it work and keep always active on that. The good thing about the SaaS services like ActiveCampaign, Salesforce, Adapt, whatever, it's they already are implementing all of the new the trends like AI, for instance. They immediately implemented new AI features to their stack because they knew it's something that the market is using. And these kind of tools usually are left behind for quite a few time, and then they are going to implement it afterwards. So what happens is you need to think about what you are trading. It's your time or your money. So in this case, it's a kind of a thing that you need to trade. So, okay, the best practices to collect, apply it, and measure data, you already in some way are already answered. Just one thing that I want to add, it's when you are the collecting, for instance, more importantly, you need to obey with the compliance of everything, like the in this case, for instance, the GDPR in Europe, but there's a lot of other implementations across the world. And one of the things that you need to understand is when you are online, you are for the entire world. It's not only to obey to the rules here in Portugal, for instance, where I'm staying, or the UK, or the Spain, or France, or whatever, but to the entire world, because people are going to visit from other countries, and you need to also comply with those legislations. So the best way for you to collect all of this data, always for a more general way, is to ask for their permission first. So what you are doing is ask for permission from the users, even if it's for the time being the cookies, because we are expecting to not rely on cookies anymore in the future. But for the time being, to have their permission, have a centralized way to really understand where the consent was implemented, or in this case registered. And you need to have their permission first for email, to collect addresses, to collect any kind of contact forms that you are going to have. All of the information that you're going to have, people need to consent to that collection. Still, we are still not in China, with which they collect without asking. I think. I'm not. I'm not placing here. I'm at risk now. But
be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful. But we, for in a general way, to comply with almost every rule in the world, you need to ask for permission first. So that's one of the things that you need to understand. It's you shouldn't do also the kind of shady ways of trying to collect the data without their consent. For instance, even giants like Google and Facebook are continuously being fined by the European Union, and that's because they keep doing stuff that it's not considered good practice for a lot of legislations out in the world. Okay, I have
We have
a
here one
question here
question.
by Miguel
Yeah.
Costa. You just spoke
Yeah.
about the quality of data. What about the bias of in data? How can you go about it to prevent it internally?
Let me,
Cool,
Leo, let me
George.
tell you
That's
two
yeah.
things. When you are collecting data, and you expect to collect all the data. If it's broken, you are not collecting the right data. The data that are the user are doing on the website, you are not registering conversions, registering forms that you want to use, simulators, search box. It's that kind of quality data that I'm telling you. About the bias on data, I think you are talking more about machine learning models that can have bias. Yeah, you can have bias in all data. That's true. But if you are collecting the people that you have on your website, maybe you have to balance your website for gender, for instance. If you are collecting gender from the people, you have to balance your data sets. But maybe if you do that, you are not compliant or not complaining about where website. If it's a beauty website, normally there are more women than men visiting that kind of websites. So typically you have a bias on the website, but it's not a really bias because the interest for that kind of product it gets more interest for a woman than for men. Now that is the thing that it's not a really bias. Okay, it was biased if I try to balance the data set and say, oh no, 50% of this website it's men and 50% it's women. But it's not the reality for the beauty websites that I saw in big markets. It's more than 80. It's 20% men and the rest it's women. So women have a big, huge in the pie. But it's like it is.
Yeah,
But yes, you have always some kind of bias, but the quality is more important. When just to
yeah.
conclude, if you don't collect the data that you have, you are missing conversions, you are missing simulators that you want for instance, you want to see how many people configure it or simulate your loan. For instance, you don't get that kind of information. You are missing information, and that missing information, you are missing contextualized data for the customer, and that is it's not quality data that you should have. I think it's more or less. If you want more, please go for it.
Yeah, I'm going just to add to this the discussion. It's, for instance, the example that I've gave in the at the beginning of the webinar about that client in the UK. What we've done was an audit to the information they thought it was happening. Like, for instance, in this case, the list was huge. They had a lot of new subscribers, and they sell a lot for newcomers and so on. But when we made the audit, it was has become clear that it was about recurrent clients. They were applying new logins and so on. So this kind of bias that we can have also in data in terms of what we think it's happening, and depending on the data and context and so on, we need to have regular audits to the data, have inclusively including, for instance, data scientists that are going to look to the data and try to look for things that we never thought about that, and then they found these kind of things that can balance, or in this case change the view that we have about that data until that moment. So bias are always going to happen in some terms of data because it's crude, and we are not getting sometimes all of the contextual situation of each data. And sometimes, yes, there's bias, and it's a risk that we need to take with everyone, even with a human. When you receive a call and you listen to a very uh, how can I say, a very strong voice, and you think it's a man and it's a woman, or in this case, the gender, it's more fluid now, and it's not, it's none of those things.
Yeah.
But this is something that can impact even on the day-to-day situation. So data needs also to have audits regularly and have data scientists to also look at the data in a new perspective, add more context to the data in order to provide more information. Okay, we are already passing the time. We are going to be very quick on the next ones. I'm going to skip the implementation steps because we already have mentioned some of them.
Yeah.
Maybe about the laws, regulations, and then if we have still some questions, we can answer. But the laws and regulation of marketing automation, basically, the big ones are the GDPR in Europe. It's one of the main ones. Now it's going to be implemented, the e-privacy, which is more dedicated for the digital the perspective. It's not implemented yet, as it's proposed, but it's not actually live as I think it is. So what are the main things that we need to take care about that? I've already mentioned before about the consent first. It's one of the big ones. We need to also have always. It's a good idea to have, in this case, the first party data or a zero party data. So in this case, for us to have all of that data in not relying so much on the third party data from sellers like Facebook, Google, and so on. So that's why we have seen so many companies transition to have the data on their side. So this is one of the main things. It's that we need to comply with the GDPR, and for that to comply with this, basically, it's to have the consent first and the proof of consent. So if you have the proof that people have consented for you to do email marketing, retargeting, whatever it is that you are doing on a marketing automation space, you are already basically doing everything like that. The other thing, it's about the security of the data. And this is something that most companies usually don't think about. It's how you are securing all of this information. In this case, to prevent some force brute attacks or hackers to invade your lists and so on in order to collect this data for themselves. So this is one of the things that it's also very important. I will add one more thing. It's when you are searching for a good marketing automation tool, for instance, for you to use, take care about where they are collecting the data, where are the servers, needs to be within the European landscape. For instance, if they have servers here in the Europe, it's the best way to comply with the GDPR. How they are collecting that, how is their security system, if they are compliant with the ISO remarks about security. So this is all a lot of things that if you have a registry of everything that you have done your due diligence, you are going to be safer in case of an accusation of something like that. So if you have ever all of these points at most, obviously there's a lot more about the GDPR and the LGPD, for instance, in Brazil and so on. So it needs to be basically these are the main ones that you need to take care. If you do this you are already more than implementing or in the safe side in order, but you need to have all of this on your side. Do you have anything to add, George?
Yeah, it's like I say, regulation. It's the things that are really important to stay on the safe side. So prepare for the most rigid or the most private, the most stiff privacy law, and you are
Yes.
together for the
You
all others. Yeah.
you've mentioned yesterday or a few days about the change, or in this case the benefit of using Google Cloud in order to integrate everything, because in a way
Yeah.
you are concentrating, you're not separating a lot of data in different stances and so on, and you can have that on uh, a repository just for that brand
Yeah.
in so
Yeah.
can you
For the
talk a bit
BigQuery
more
that
about that?
yeah, for instance, for G4, what I'm doing because of the history and so on, it's doing a repository of BigQuery on the EU, but you can select other locations that are on the same regulation, like Madrid, Paris, and so on. But you can have a distributed one like EU, and you can all have your data sets. For G4, the standard version it's free, so you can put all together your raw data. It's good to have your raw data on your side because you can treat your data like you want. You can clean your data as well. I think for Miguel, now I noticed that we really know my friends, Miguel. He has very interested about their startups, about voice and e-commerce. If I'm remembering correctly. But the only things to have quality data is to put all things on the same repository, like BigQuery or G4 that is connected. And then if you want to go to another cloud, you can go. I defend multi-cloud because multi-clouds have it's more safe that have all things together in one cloud. But for Google, it's have a very good price for BigQuery, and the history that you can have there. It's all your raw data. You can clean it. You can correct data that is not correctly there, and that is good. So to prevent internally, like you said, I think it's that thing that and for the regulations that I said before, the G4 they are collecting the IP address that are only in Europe, and then they are throwing away that IP addresses because now it's going to one region on European, and that information then does not comes to the servers, only the location CD, and that is not the IP address. But the things about like we said, it's have to have a very good knowledge of this because this is very important. We cannot grab some list of emails and start think that is my own list and I can sell it and so on. This is a thing from the past, I think, Rick. But was a very
Unfortunately, it's not that in the past. There are still some companies trying to sell data and so on. So yeah. Okay,
that's
so we have the last questions. If there are still
anyone.
people watching this, you can still make one or two questions. But I have one that from Marisa, which has asked on through the email form, which is, let me just check it out. What is the thing you try to optimize when you are implementing this kind of marketing automation? Do you want to answer that first, or I can do it?
I can go, Rick,
Yeah.
can go.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, starts.
Okay, what's the first thing that you optimize when you are implementing marketing automation?
I think for the first thing to do is to have, like I said before, a collected data that I can rely on, and have the context data that is applied for that customer. Like you said, if you have one email without any knowledge of when he comes there and why he comes there, and has to be consented, otherwise you cannot use it. That information cannot share it. So you have to have your um, all your information and stack uh, respecting this kind of laws that are important for and the privacy. What I can say that is important, I saw in one customer that is selling to France. It's the most so the ticket, the higher the ticket, the higher the privacy stakes. It's
Yeah,
important for them. So that I was like, wow, but it's
yeah,
correlated. So higher stake, higher prices, higher privacy for that customers. So I was amazed by that because it's not such a big deal the kind of product that it is. But I thought, oh, okay, it makes some sense. So it makes sense invest in privacy and invest
yeah,
in regulation because you will attract better customers and high-paying customers. So I think
yeah, for sure.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things.
Trust.
Some more day-to-day things I've shared before. Um, an example of a UK company again on the e-commerce side. What they when we reached or started working with them, and this is one case the scenario. It's not something that it's going to happen with every single client, but in this case, what we have done was to change a simple thing like to apply best practices in terms of each channel. In this case, for the marketing automation ones, we have placed a simple arrow on the CTAs, like an action visual aspect of on the CTA. So we have like a shop here or something like that, and then we added just a simple arrow that we have here on the keyboard. And just for doing that, and I need to address this first. This is a company that was already selling a lot through e-commerce, but this little change represented in a case of a few months just the £2 million higher revenue just for doing that. So we have compared what they were doing on the marketing automation side for the months before, and then after that change, and immediately represented almost the £2 million or something like that. So this happened because they were already selling a lot. So this doesn't happen just because we have implemented that action button, but because the conversion was a bit higher, they it represented for the company this kind of revenue. Imagine if something like this happens on Amazon, for instance, it can represent more the $500 million or something like that. Just a simple change like that. So what we try to do when we enter a new client on marketing automation, the first thing that we try to optimize is to apply best practices of each channel on their already communications they already do, and then we start to understand. Okay, let's do A/B testing and try to do all of these things and see what it's going to happen more, and then we are going to try then further along to introduce new automations or something like that. But to answer Marie's question, um, we try to implement all of the best practices that usually works best on each channel. That alone can represent a huge difference on the brand itself, especially when they already are selling a lot. that's when we can see a real difference. When we are doing that for a small company that it's not getting a lot of money, maybe it can show some good numbers, but not something that astounding like £2 million of difference. So in this case, obviously our fee was completely highly return of investment on the client, because we haven't charged them for £2 million. So it was the ROI was evident. Okay, I think we don't
Okay.
have any more questions. I think we can end this. I hope it was useful for everyone listening. Otherwise, was an excellent conversation with you, George. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
being
Rui.
here with me, and I
Yes.
hope we can do this in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye
Thank you,
bye,
everybody.
all.
Bye bye.